gentlemen, fuck balls where the game begins. Betting on sports with our expert spins. From football fields to courtside drills. Punk Pals podcast, we pay the bills. Punk Pals, no bid and play. Join us now every sports day. Tips and pins that never fail. Punk Pals podcast, set yourself.
Yes, here we go. Once again, Pump Pals podcast is back. Shoot us a follow on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your favourite podcast. Throw us a 5-star review, tap the bell, share with your mates, all that sort of stuff. Check us out on the socials as well, Instagram and TikTok. Also, Gmails, puntpalspodcast@gmail.com. My name is Robbie Vaughn. This is Nick Ristovic. Sir, how are you today?
Mate, I've been chomping at the bit to get to this potty today.
Likewise, hasn't it been good? Like, after such a massive weekend of footy, you just go, we've done the review, we want to get into the betting this week. It's been big, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has, mate. It's been extremely big. Glad to get through the review on a Monday.
Yes.
Just work through that PTSD from the Fremantle exit on the weekend, and now we're all focused on what's to come, aren't we?
Did it help? Did
Not
the
really,
review?
Not really. It's still been a tough week for Freo supporters, mate, but plenty to look forward to, isn't there? And lots of news to get through today in the potty.
There certainly is, and as an Essendon supporter, I certainly feel your pain. Don't you worry about that. We did do our AFL review on Monday. That's up on the stream at the moment if you want to check that out, which means we can get straight into last week's bets. Now, I thought we'd start off with Tone's hot tip, the football multi to get rolling, man.
Yeah, Tones has been putting in a bit of effort the last few weeks to try and come up with a few good tips. How did he go on the weekend, mate?
Well, 50-50, which is actually quite good. So in his multi one, which was Aston Villa Arsenal, a BTS, so that's
Both teams score.
Both teams score. Fulham Leicester City, both teams score into Inter Milan head-to-head and Barcelona head-to-head. That did not come up, but his second multi, Aberdeen in the Scottish League, Real Madrid and Atletico Madrid all to win. That came up. So well done to the Tone there.
Tones off the mark. Well done, Tones.
Boom. We'd love to see it.
You got to put your cojones on the line and put a few tips out there.
Exactly.
Prepared for the losses, but when you win, we've got to celebrate, don't we?
Exactly right. And he's got another one for us, which we will go through in next week's bets. And, mate, I'm going to get you to go through Jacob Sinagra's as well, the Belmont quaddie from last week.
Yeah.
How'd that go?
Look, pretty good, really, Jacob. Unfortunately, we didn't get the chockies, but he had 3 winning legs there over 4-leg quaddie. Unfortunately, in leg 3, Search and Rocks came in like a bullet a gate, mate. It was into $2.20 at the jump, so a lot of late support. Did get the win, and unfortunately, we bombed out the 3rd leg of the quaddie there. So, in positive news, the quaddie didn't pay very much. Most of the favourites won anyway, so there wouldn't have been a great collect. So those quaddies, you're hoping for a bit of value in the first couple of legs, ideally, mate. So the quaddie value blows out. But yeah, look, first crack at it, Jacob. 3 legs up. I think if the punters still around those numbers that he'd put forward, probably still won a bit of cash there. So good work, Jacob. Didn't mind it.
100%. And we like seeing these bets come through. We don't have another one from Jacob for a little bit later on, but if he wants to get involved next week, he can for sure. And we also had Liam McLaughlin as well, who had race 9 at Belmont, Falcon Trader, paying $7.50. He liked the look of it, but wasn't to be in the end.
Yeah, look, it looked the winner at one point.
Yeah, it did.
It came with a big run, sort of sweeping around the bend there. Looked to have a great run in transit and then just laid in really badly down the straight. So for those not familiar to racing, laid in's where the horse starts to move towards the rail. The jockey's trying to keep it gun firing straight, and unfortunately, just got overrun there. Didn't find a run, and there were some excuses, but the horse that beat it, Sensational.
Sensational
is a bloody good horse.
Yeah, I think Willie Pike was on that as well, wasn't he?
Yeah, it's tough to beat the Wizard when he's on a short price favourite, but that horse has now won 5 on the trot. Sessional. So, still with Falcon Trader next start, though, mate. I thought it was a positive run and good value at each way at $8 and $2.50 for the place. So keep them coming, Liam.
You love to see it. And you know what? Falcon Trader, next race might get even better odds if you reckon it's in decent form. So it could be one to watch.
Yeah, mate. Booster up. Might get more than $10. Stay with it.
Oh, hello. I like this. Finally, we'll get into our own bets, and I'll go first. Why not?
Yeah, please.
So I had 2 losers and a winner, so I'll go through the losers first. Freo, $30 on the nose. I had at $1.80. The reason I got on that was I was taking advantage of the 12 points plus up at any time, and you get your money back. Unfortunately, Fremantle did not get 12 points up at any point of that game.
Sorry, mate, we cost you there, didn't we?
Yep.
Yeah, it's on me.
Yeah, Nick, you'll pay for that later, don't you worry.
Good, yeah. Beers on me this week.
Also, I had a 4-leg multi in the footy. Fremantle, Geelong, Gold Coast, and the Giants to all win. I had $50 at $11. Now, that was very good odds. The reason behind that was I had the 50% odds boost.
Yeah.
Only half saluted. It just goes to show how hard it has been to actually pick a winner this AFL season, eh?
Especially a 4-legger too.
Yeah.
We were essentially just getting burnt by one of those legs, and usually the most short legs. So,
yeah,
mate, tough weekend of punting. I just like the fact you found some value amongst some of those head-to-head results. So we'll hit one eventually, won't we?
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, there was value there, but then you say, well, the value wasn't there because it didn't win. So the other one as well, and this was a given. I was very happy. I wish I could have put more on this because I would have if I could have. Sydney to win into Geelong and Hawthorn to win by 40+ points. So I put $20 on that at $5. That was one of the Tab Touch specials, and the odds were boosted from $3.25 into $5. So a very nice bet. It saluted, and that really saved me for the weekend.
Great punting. David Short.
Yes.
Man, he wanted to end the season in form, and he did. Got one up for the punters at $5, which is much better than the usual multis he puts out there at sort of 3 to 4. So well done, Shorty, and well done to yourself, mate. That definitely got us out of the hole this week. So
Thank
It
you.
was a pretty comfortable watch for most of those legs too, wasn't it? Really?
Oh, there was not a drama. It was never in doubt, to be fair.
We love those ones.
Mate, let's move on to yours. You had a bit of luck and a bit of not so good luck.
Yeah, another mixed bag week for me, mate. I took the two combined disposal specials at 75 possies, so McCluggage, Brayshaw and Crouch. McCluggage 29, Crouch 28, Brayshaw 33, so very comfortable there. So
Easy.
Got the $20 win there with a double up at $20 on at twos.
Well done.
Thanks, bud. And then Viney, Newcomb and Cripps for 75, and this one started like an absolute howler. Viney,
Yeah.
he's signed a 4-year deal, mate. 11 disposals for the game.
That's what happens.
Cues
They
in
get
the rack.
comfortable.
So he's clearly got the paycheck already secured and tailing off. But no, it was a bad start. But then, thank gosh for Newcomb. He had 35 down there in Tasmania. And then Cripps obviously tried to take him on his shoulders again in a narrow loss with 30 disposals. So we got those two up, which had me at $80, so $20 down so far. And then Falcon Trader, we know what happened there. Pretty disappointing there in the end. Not being able to continue its early run there and got swamped down the straight. And that AFL multi was an absolute heartbreaker.
Yeah, I know. I mean, what more could you have done?
Mate, I don't know. Geelong by 40 or more.
Yeah.
Hawks by 25 or more. Sydney to Adelaide. Tick, tick, tick.
Easy.
And then Brisbane Lions at home against your Dons.
Yep.
The story goes on, I guess. 37, 40 points up. And then the last quarter, Lions...
Threw it away.
Any danger of kicking a goal from 30, 20 metres in front? They all just had absolute howler shots in front of goal. So in the end, it was a 20-point victory, not a 25-point victory for Brisbane. And I tell you what, in the last 5 minutes, watching McCluggage and others butcher goals right in front cost me the multi. So it should have been 190 up. In the end, I'm $20 down. That's punting.
It's heartbreaking stuff, isn't it? And that is punting. You're not wrong there at all. Hey, mate, we might move on to the tennis because I've just got some odds up here for the US Open, which is underway at the moment. Do we have any specials on this, do you know, or are we just going the outrights at this point?
A few multi-specials there.
Yeah.
Generally with the tennis, Tab Touch will pry that sort of 10 to 50% bonus depending on how many legs you throw in there. Pretty popular betting option for a lot of the punters, the tennis multis, mate. One of those things you can kind of have a few short price favourites involved, and with the bonus, it's actually quite juicy, isn't it?
Well, especially at this end of the tournament, because you've got the whole thing around there's so many games going on, and there is some very short favourites. But the good thing about it is when you multi them in, you get good odds. And
exactly.
Let's be honest, you can generally pick the winners early on.
Yeah,
it's not that hard.
It's a bit more predictable, and I guess the odds reflect that. So you do need to find your multis, to your point, mate, to actually get some value.
Yeah.
US Open's massive, isn't it?
It's huge. And having a look at the men, so Kokonakis is playing next on Friday. $1.67 favourite ahead of Nuno Borges. And also Alex de Minaur, who's been smashing it at the moment. The Demon, he's really hit a hot patch of form. He's the $1.17 favourite versus Otto Virtanen on Friday night as well. Not sure where Otto's from, to be honest.
Yeah, he's not a familiar name I've encountered in many markets, but
yeah,
I'm going to say Italy.
sounds good. Yep. I'm just going to agree with you, man, because I have no idea. Not even going to lie about it.
Testing your tennis knowledge there, mate.
That's
so the
funny.
Aussies double up, surely, don't you? Take the both of them in and try and
You'd
find
think
sort of
so.
close to $2 with the boost there.
You would think so,
Yeah.
wouldn't you? Get a nice little boost to it. And I'm just flicking through the women's, and I can't actually see much in the way of women coming up. But Caroline Wozniacki, $1.19 over Renata Zarazua. That'd be my hot bet there, Friday at 9 a.m.
Yeah. It's actually a pretty good time slot, though, for those watching the tennis, 9 a.m.
Yep.
Friendly, rather than those late nights we've been putting up with over the Olympics. So, yeah, good. Lots of good odds throughout those markets. And I think we generally put together a bit of a tad touch special if the Australians get through to the quarters and semis. So
Yep.
stay tuned for those as well.
I reckon we need to find a tennis expert because that's neither of our fortes. Like,
Yeah.
for most sports, we've got a pretty good knowledge. I've got to admit, tennis isn't my strong point. So maybe we can find someone. Pat Cash, what's he doing?
Yeah,
We'll
sure.
get him
he's
on the
up for a
weekly.
gig. Is he still doing sort of any major commercial campaigns there, Cashy? Or
Well, not that I've seen for a while. It's all cashies now. So we'll get him in.
we'll get him in. We need to win the bets this week and get some cash for him sorted next week.
Exactly right, mate. With no AFL, we're sort of really expanding our horizons with the betting this week.
Yeah.
Belmont, we haven't concentrated on a lot over the winter. Of course,
Yep.
as we get into Ascot, we're going to probably focus in more on the horses. But Belmont this week, you seen anything you like?
Mate, yeah, I guess you provide a good summary. We haven't focused on a lot of the winter racing because this is the time where the good horses start to come back.
Yeah, yep.
So right now, the hardcore punters are starting to look at the end of Belmont and where horses are headed at the start of the Ascot, which will be, 4 to 6 weeks' time. Everyone's excited to get back to Ascot, obviously. And yeah, I think the key thing at the moment is around futures for the Group 1s coming up later in the year.
Love that.
So this is a really good time for those racing punters to have a look at some of these horses that are proven performers. They might be first up in the run, heading towards the spring. You're trying to find out where they're going.
Mm.
You look at futures markets at the moment for some of WA's best horses, i.e. Bustler as an example,
Yep.
who's nominated for the Everest, actually, interestingly
Yeah,
as well.
okay.
Bustling, sorry. Not to be confused with Bustler, which is a horse running over here in WA. But yeah, those horses will be nominated for 4 or 5 different futures markets. The little punter's tip is to find out where they're going.
Gotcha.
You get the early odds. So you might be getting $7, $8 for a horse that's a favourite and might start at $2 on the day.
Yep.
So this is where the big racing enthusiasts start to get around these futures markets. And Tab Touch been putting out a heap of videos of trainers this week, just trying to find out where they're headed. And then obviously, Saturday we see a stakes race at Belmont, the Jolly Beggar Stakes.
Yeah, I like it.
Good by
Jolly
name.
Beggar. Is that,
Yeah.
it sounds Irish.
It's
to
a
me.
horse, yeah. Look, it's one of those races where it tracks a quality field.
Mm-hmm.
And in line with Hawthorn's resurgence, the favourite in the race on the weekend in the Jolly Beggar is Ginnivan.
I love this horse. I had a nice little win on it, I'm going to say a month ago.
Yeah, okay.
Runs like a dream. It's quick.
Left me out of that one tip, mate. Didn't you?
Yeah,
Down there at
I
Belmont.
just said the race is a bit of a last minute thing, mate, you
I might
know.
have to get you on the FaceTime and get a few tips from you next time you're working there. But no, it's
Done.
a good horse, and I think the other forgotten horse in the race is Super Session.
Oh, who just won last weekend.
Just absolutely beautifully
And what'd you say,
too.
its last 5?
Yeah, it's $4 with parking on board. So
Mhm.
if you want to steer around the favourite there in the Jolly Beggar Stakes at Belmont on Saturday, obviously you might find the same race multi with Ginnivan to win and Super Session top 3.
Nice
Might
little
get some good
Quinella.
odds there, or run
1
a
and
Quinella
2.
play. Exactly, mate. Yeah,
I like
box
a Quinella.
But yeah, obviously those parky backers will be hoping you can get one home at $4. They're normally much shorter, aren't they?
I like it. Mate, also Caulfield, there's a bit going on this weekend
mate,
over
I'm
East.
So excited for this racing on Saturday. It's a return to the big Group 1s really for spring racing.
Yes.
So this week is the big race, the Memsey Stakes.
I love it.
So you've got multiple Group 1 winners going head to head. You've also got the Helly Stakes on Saturday as well, which is a really great race. Look, you're going to see the likes of Mr. Brightside back and Pride of Jenny and all those horses we loved during the spring last year and haven't seen for bloody 6-8 months.
How good was Pride of Jenny? There was a few years there where I used to get on Pride of Jenny a lot because my sister's name is Jenny.
Yeah, okay.
Never did anything, but all of a sudden last year came from nowhere, from the clouds, and won a whole heap of races and just took the spring apart.
It did, didn't it?
How did that happen?
Well, it's just one of those horses that goes ahead by so many lengths.
Yeah.
And just grinds them into the ground. So Pride of Jenny, it's going to run out of gas. You know, the other horses should catch it down the straight. Not to be last year.
Remember that big win it had?
Yeah, it was, I think, 20 lengths.
Yeah, it was huge. It was
Over at maybe
ridiculous.
Randwick, yeah, it was pretty incredible. But there's one horse I did sort of circle around Saturday in the Heatherly Stakes. which is race 8.
Yep.
And it's number 13, Rise at Dawn.
Right.
So Michael D rides for the Hayes brothers.
Mickey D.
Yeah, Mickey D's been in good form, and the Hayes brothers know where to place their horses. It's 1 from 1 at the track and distance, 7 from 11 in terms of wins from starts, and you're getting about $4 at the moment. So there's one I just thought we put out there early. Number 13, race 8, Heatherly Stakes. Rise at Dawn is one I quite like. So just having a look at those early, mate.
Write it down. Hey, question around the futures before we move on. At the moment, are we more looking at the Eastern races in the Melbourne Spring Carnival, or can we start to get futures odds on, for example, the Nordley here in WA and the Winterbottom Stakes and all that?
Great question.
Or is
They're
that too early?
all available, mate.
All available at the moment? Okay,
yeah.
cool.
So I guess a good segue into it. So, for example, the horse I spoke about before in Bustler.
Mm-hmm.
Bustler might be nominated for the Railway. He might be in markets for several of those futures events, and he might be short price favourite in all of them.
Yep.
So the clue is really to find out where he's going, what's his target race,
Yeah.
and making sure that you know the lead up, which races he'll be going to back him, and obviously making sure that you don't steer into these futures markets where he potentially won't run at all.
Yep, and load up on the ones that he will run.
Yeah.
But the other thing as well that we should say about that, it's usually buyer beware, isn't it? Like if doesn't run in that race, the money's gone.
Yeah, it's pre-nominations,
Yeah.
meaning it's all in markets, which is why I guess the odds are inflated.
Mm-hmm.
So really, you got to do your due diligence as a punter to try and find that content and hear from the trainers and find out where those horses are being mapped out to go.
Love that.
That's the gold. So, yeah, very, very, very excited about the Pinnacles and those Group 1 races in Perth. But, yeah, it all kicks off this weekend over East, mate, with the Memsey.
Beautiful. Love the horses. Love getting to the track, and I can't wait to spring here in WA as well when we get back to Ascot, because that's always a good time. Now, man, there's been a lot of talk about wild card round, and is this something that will come in? I really like it because I heard someone explain the other day how it would be essentially you're playing for the top 6 within the season, and then basically those last 4 positions, 7 to 10, are the ones where you might get in, you might not, but really you're playing off to be in the top 6 to be safe in the first week of finals.
Yeah. It's controversial.
Yeah.
It's polarising for many, like hardcore long-term AFL supporters don't like it. I guess it's common in other sports. So I think it adds an element of interest. My understanding of it is that Craig Hutchison, has been the one pushing the agenda in the AFL, are seriously considering it next year.
Interesting.
So I guess on the weekend where there's still teams vying for a final spot right until the last game of the round, it probably becomes a little less relevant.
Yep.
But when there's teams that are well outside the 8,
Yep.
and
Which does
9th to
happen.
10th might be 2 or 3 games separating 8th to 9th. I actually think it'd be really cool, especially in this bye weekend now we're having before the finals kick off. It just seems like such an anticlimax, doesn't it?
Exactly right. And the thing about it is all of a sudden the teams that make the top 6, they get the benefit of having the bye in this week where we usually get no footy at all. And the 4 teams playing off to make the next week of finals are actually playing this weekend. So we're getting footy. Like it's only 2 games, but we're getting footy.
Yeah, I think that's what we want. And there's no Brownlow medal this week either, so it just seems like a bit of a lull. I guess they had the AFLW kicking off, which is probably a strategic decision they've had at play there. I feel like we might be biased here, mate, though.
Potentially.
Because our teams always finish 9th.
Pretty much. Pretty much.
I reckon we're just secretly thinking this might be our way in to play consistent finals.
I actually don't disagree with you at all. That is absolutely spot on. Now, want to talk about Vossi as well.
Whoa.
This was such a good story. Do you reckon you'd ever pull a Vossi?
Oh, my God. I reckon I would if it was a teenager.
Yeah.
Yeah, so for those that don't know the story, take us through it, big fella.
So essentially, there was a kid, and what was he doing? He stole a car.
Stole a very fancy car.
Yeah, and so they pulled over and they've done the runner, and Vossi happened to be in the cafe just out the front where these kids have done the runner, and he's just gone for it, tackled him, citizen's arrest, thank you very much. And Michael Voss has made a hero of himself once again. It's a Norm Smith winning performance, really, isn't
What
it?
a week for Vossi.
Yeah.
He's out of the finals and he's in, scraped through, and now he's taking care of some hard work on the streets.
What an absolute legend.
So they crashed the car and then tried to flee the scene, and obviously Vossi's just come steaming out like the bull that he was, you know. I'm getting flashbacks when he was chasing down that Collingwood player in the infamous grand final.
Oh, yes.
The Vossi just red face steaming towards you, nostrils
Flatten
flared.
him.
I mean, it's what nightmares are made of. And we talked about how he'd give the players a spray.
Yep.
I couldn't imagine how scary it would be if you were a 16, 17-year-old.
Yes.
And Bossie's coming for you. So that was a great story.
Bloody terrifying. Hey, funny thing
keeps
around
it busy,
it.
doesn't it, in a week with no footy?
It
Something
really
to talk about.
does. It does. And funny thing around this, mate, you'll appreciate this. So I come from a pretty rough town in Victoria. It's called Marupna. And I'm not going to mention names here. We're not going to run with names. But there's a lot of characters that come out of our town. And one guy, when I look back, really funny dude. Like, is a bit of a larrikin. And anyway, from all reports through the grapevine, apparently it was his son, the guy that was tackled.
Oh, the stain attached to Marupna
Yeah,
again.
exactly
Oh, no.
right. So that's only a rumor. I don't know exactly if that is true. I really hope it is because that is absolutely hilarious. And yeah, we'll see. I'll give you more info about that, but I just find it very funny that my hometown is associated with that.
Any AFL players come out of there, mate?
Clayton Oliver, he played for Marupna before getting drafted.
Well, there we go. Some quality at least.
Yep. And from Fitzroy, Western Bulldogs and the Gold Coast, he retired a few years ago. Yep. Had the rat's tail, played off half back. He was very good.
So
Oh my God.
Harbrow.
Jared Harbrow.
There we
Very
go.
good boy.
See, how was that?
Yeah.
It's just,
That was great, mate. You were so
Yeah.
onto it. And I know
The
I'm
rat's
getting
tail.
older because I can't remember stuff all the time.
The rat's tail gave it away.
Yeah, it did.
I like when you've got, just quickly, I love when you've got a player that you can hang your hometown hopes on.
It's nice, isn't it?
I'm a Bustleton boy.
Oh, yeah. What do you got?
Giant Amos, that's it.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Ashton Ham, sorry, Hamsy, if you're listening. I'll throw you in the list too. He was a Busso boy, actually.
I loved him. I was so pissed when Essendon delisted him.
I love the Hams twins, apart from when I used to play against
got a
them as
twin brother?
junior. He does, Kyle Hams.
Really?
Shout out to Kyle. Those two boys were absolutely menacing in junior footy. One of them actually knocked me out in the grand final
Oh, you're joking.
when I was playing. So, yeah, thanks, boys. But no, they're two outstanding players. that we
Hammy
can mention from
steamrolled you.
Busso. He did, mate. Going back with a flight, just trying to take one for the team. And, yeah, paid the price. So
Hey, when it's your time, it's your time.
exactly, mate. Yeah,
You've got to be there.
won a few fans, but I didn't play most of the game. I was spewing up in the change rooms with a concussion. No protocols back then either. Straight back on the fourth, and didn't know where I was, mate. I was in next week.
Shout out to Hammy, Ashton Hams. I love that.
there you go,
Hey, mate,
Hamsy.
before we move on to the really big news, just shout out to a few AFL players that have been delisted this week.
Yeah.
Always a rough time for a lot of these. So Aiden Begg from Collingwood, Kane Baldwin from Essendon, also Tex Wanganeen and Jaden Hunter from Essendon. But the one I am absolutely pissed off about, I'm not happy as a Bombers supporter, Nick Hind got delisted. That is
Pacey.
nonsensical.
Pacey, isn't he?
Oh,
I think
he's
got more to give.
pacey. He gave a lot of heart this year, and he was one of our best players at times. So that is an absolute disgrace. Essendon Football Club, have a look at yourself. Kaya Francis White from Melbourne, also Josh Shackey, Matthew Ellison, Riley Bonner, Tom Campbell, Seb Ross, which I was surprised about,
Yeah.
and James Van S from St Kilda
There's a
as
few-
well.
I mean, yeah, he talked about, like, it's weird seeing players that were a regular fixture within the season gone at the end.
Yeah.
Like Riley Bonner, they played him for a large portion of the season.
Yeah.
So I don't know. How do you fall out of favour with the coach mid-season, then you're out by the end of the year? Josh Shackey's a journeyman. He's probably,
Three
a little bit
clubs.
past his use-by date there. He's probably
Yep.
deep, well down the list of forwards chosen. But yeah, there's a few players I think that might go on from that list.
The only thing I can think from the perspective of Riley Bonner and Seb Ross is that maybe St Kilda have to do the list turnover. You know
Yeah.
how sometimes they'll delist and then redraft?
Yeah,
Even if it's
might get a
rookie?
rookie list or something, one of those guys. Seb Ross is coming towards the end of his tenure, I think, anyway, in terms of age, isn't he?
Yeah, could be true. But I thought he was still decent. I haven't seen tons of St Kilda this year. But whenever I've seen him in the last few years, he's always been quite good. Good for a 20-plus in the multi every week.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's sometimes how you benchmark him, isn't it?
Pretty much.
Can you put him in the multi with confidence? Yeah, they're a great player. 20 every week. Bank him. Just keep relisting them.
Exactly.
So we've got
Well,
to
it is
bank 'em for our
Pump Hell's
multis.
podcast, man.
So yeah, no, I reckon a few of those guys will go on. Hopefully, Riley Bonner's got a booming left foot. I reckon he could be a nice trade target for a few of those teams that need something to kick out a fullback.
Interesting that he left Port as well to go to St Kilda. I mean, you would be
Yeah.
thinking that he was going to have quite a nice career, but yeah, it's
I reckon he got
Disappointing.
squeezed.
squeezed.
Now, there's other news, mate. We've
Yeah.
talked about the delistings,
Yeah.
but there's a bit of, would you call it trade bait? Out there at the moment, it's
trade bait.
There's a lot of trade chat.
news. Maybe the biggest trade news ever in the history of AFL, at least since Juddy. Christian Petrarca. How is this going to roll out? Nick, you tell me. Is he playing at Melbourne next year, or is he going somewhere else, elsewhere, another club?
Mate, you touched on it. Probably the biggest trade news I've heard in many, many years.
Yeah.
So you're talking about a man who 2 years ago signed what was a one-club contract.
Yep, 7 years.
7 years. He's 2 years in. At the time, he said, I want to be a one-club player. I love the direction of the club, every direction it's going, and those who are going to be part of the next premiership. The wheels fell off in Melbourne this year. Clayton Oliver obviously came off a limited pre-season, disciplinary issues. They fell outside the 8. Christian Petrarca badly injured.
Yep.
We know what happened.
Yep.
It's really weird where this sits at the moment. Petrarca's gone silent, hasn't he?
He has. There's been so much news around him and around the potential of a trade. Obviously, Melbourne's spoken, and they're saying that he's going to be there no matter what. Yeah. But we've heard nothing from Christian Petrarca. I find it interesting, mate. I struggle to see how a deal gets done because Melbourne are quite rightly going to ask the world.
Yep.
He's one of the best players in the comp. He's got so much upside because he's still, 25, 26?
Yeah, he's a game winner.
Yep.
He's a Norm Smith medalist.
He's a Norm Smith medalist. He's a premiership player. They were sort of pinning their future on him. I mean, there's talk of Harry Mackay. Why would he want to go to Melbourne? Like, there's a mass exodus there. They're talking about Pickett wanting to leave. Clayton Oliver might not be there. Neil Bullen's already leaving. What's the benefit to go to Melbourne?
It's got a Chris Judd, Josh Kennedy feel about it, this one.
Yeah.
So I feel, and you raise a good point, like, why would you want to leave?
Yeah.
I think it comes down to if Melbourne are going to try and move forward and get the best out of this trade, and Christian Petrarca is dead set keen on leaving, which the rumours are in his exit interview saying he's keen to find another home in Melbourne.
Yep.
So he's definitely ruled out all other states and all other clubs outside of Melbourne. And Melbourne have to explore a trade for him. Almost the player has the bargaining here, weirdly, which is the other way around when you see he's still got 4 years running on a current contract.
Yep.
It would have to be a bloody good trade for them to entertain it.
Yep.
And if you think about the Chris Judd, Josh Kennedy trade, Kennedy wanted to go absolutely nowhere from Carlton.
Yep.
Juddy was keen to come home. In the end, it got sorted out. It got done.
Yep.
And I think Harry Mackay probably is the sad story of this entire circus where he's just gone about his business trying to get back on the track.
Yeah.
Trying to contribute during finals, and suddenly he's thrown into this big trade discussion unknowingly and probably unbeknownst to him that this is on the agenda. So is it? I don't know. There's a lot of foxing. I definitely think it's going to be very tough to squeeze Christian Petrarca out of Melbourne. You'd have to have 2 established players and a couple of first-round draft picks for them to even entertain it.
I agree. Yep.
But do you want to drag a player like a Shea Bolton who doesn't look interested at all this year and is keen to come home? Do you want to drag Christian Petrarca through another 12 months if he doesn't want to be there?
Yeah.
Or do you get trade value for him while you can?
But you would think if the trade doesn't happen that he doesn't just leave the toys out of the cot. He goes and picks them up, he puts them back in, and he goes and plays footy.
I think so, yeah. I think
it looks very bad on him if he doesn't.
You got to be professional, but it seems like it's been a bit of the Christian Petrarca show, hasn't it?
Well, yeah, I would have never really said that before, but the last 3 weeks, yeah.
Brand
100%.
Petrarca has been referenced this week.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I'm also very interested around what you said with the Judd Kennedy trade. Kennedy was only a second-year player, and he really he didn't hold a lot of currency. He had potential, but really he didn't have any weight behind it yet. Obviously, we know what he became. Whereas Harry Mackay, I think he has a little bit more say because he's obviously an established player. He's won a couple of norms. He's won a couple of Colemans, hasn't he?
Yeah.
So he's a guy where you go, all right, we can't just say you're out of here, mate. If he says no, that you got to respect it.
No, you do, mate. And I guess Carlton would have learned from that Kennedy trade. They got Judd, but then they lost a key forward that they could have kicked, 1,000 goals. So I think they did have big raps on Kennedy. I know he was a super high draft pick and they were going to try and build a forward line around him.
Yeah.
So his future value was high. I guess to your point, you've got Petrarca who's already done it. And you've got Mackay who's proven form.
Yep.
But Melbourne are desperate for a key forward.
They are.
I think you got separate the Petrarca argument. Melbourne have struggled to kick goals in bags. You can't rely on Fritsch and these smaller forwards to kick 3 or 4 a week. Then you get shut out of games where you need contested marks. They've tried Van Rooyen. They've tried a number of guys through there, Turner. They just haven't had that answer to a key forward since Ben Brown, really, 3 years ago when he was at the peak of his powers.
Yeah.
So how desperate are they for a key forward?
Yeah.
I reckon they got the midfield mix right.
Mm.
Maybe Petrarca steps out. They've got a few guys coming through there. Some younger fellas through the draft. But I think, mate, if they want to get it done and Petrarca's that keen to leave, it will get done.
Yep, I agree. Someone will do it. With Carlton, I don't know that they're that desperate for Petrarca. I mean, everybody wants him in the side, but they've got 2 forwards there.
Yeah, we haven't
already
heard
who
from
are
them
great.
anything about Petrarca, have we?
Nah,
Yeah,
but
that's a
they're
good point.
they seem to be the ones that are all the talk. But then you look at their midfield, they've got Cripps in there, who's he's got a few years left. He's still at the peak of his powers. They've got Walsh. They've got a whole heap of other guys.
Yeah,
and
they
you
do.
go like they don't need to sell the farm for Petrarca. They'd like to have him,
Yeah.
but they don't need to give everything away for him. And I think it would be stupid.
Yeah, you're right. It would be. You can't give up too much, and there's a lot of trade news around other clubs that may be potentially giving too much to try and get the likes of Bolton and these other guys into WA. So you've got to be careful how you play it. You don't want to ruin your draft hand for the next few years. But I
Yeah.
guess the question I keep getting from the general footy public is what's happened? How's Petrarca gone from being happy at Melbourne, getting injured, and then just falling out of love with the club and wanting a trade out?
Strange, isn't it? Don't know.
Well, they're talking of him going to Noosa and the guys not being happy with his month off.
Right,
Up
right.
there, didn't feel supported from the club during his injury and the trauma that associated with his injury in hospital there. But yeah, I don't know. It feels like there's massive disconnect. There's rumours about the Clayton Oliver handling of that situation
Yeah.
being an issue for him too, in terms of Clayton's standards not being upheld and him still getting a game. So I don't know. There's a lot of pieces to it. I hope we've provided somewhat of a summary.
Yeah.
Where it goes though, I still don't know. And I guess it's a moving feast, isn't it?
Geez, the club looks very different if Petrarca, Oliver, Neil Bullen and Pickett come out of there this year, though.
Wow,
doesn't it?
yeah, very good call, mate. Yeah.
It's not a great selling point for any prospective people to trade in. Finally, mate, I thought we might just go through the F1 in Monza this weekend. So from a betting perspective, I think this is quite open. So generally, you're not the biggest F1 man, are you? So are you aware of what's going on?
I'm at the
moment?
Netflix stage of learning about it.
Okay, cool.
Primarily because I'm trying to share your enthusiasm for the sport.
I love it, eh?
Give me the
really,
lowdown.
really love
Mate.
it.
Tell me what's going on.
Righto. So with F1, Red Bull has been the premier team for about 3 years now. Before that, it was Mercedes. Lewis Hamilton won 6 championships in a row.
Yep.
Now Max Verstappen's taken over that mantle. He's won 3 in a row. Red Bull have been far and away the very best team. Their cars have been quick and they have been smashing it. Now, what's happened in the last 2 months, over this season, but definitely in the last 2 months, McLaren have actually really pulled up and they've taken over Red Bull essentially because they've got the quicker car.
Okay.
They're about 70 points behind now, which is only really a few races if both their drivers can win a few.
Yep.
And now Verstappen isn't the favourite anymore. Like Lando Norris is the man to watch. So Lando won on the weekend. Max Verstappen came second. He just didn't have the pace. And the good thing about this is our boy, Oscar Piastri, the Aussie, is third favourite at 575 because he's also in a McLaren and driving very well.
So there we go. So it's benefited the Aussie, the changeover.
Massively, yeah.
So he suddenly becomes a big player in those top 3 markets, podium markets.
Hugely, yeah,
And,
yeah.
what are we looking at the odds at the moment for the Monza, mate?
Righto.
Yep.
So at the moment, Lando Norris, he's the favourite at $2. Max Verstappen, second favourite at 375. So this is a massive turnaround.
Yeah, huge.
Mate, at the start of this year, you wouldn't have got Verstappen for any more than $1.20. Like he was winning any race. Oscar Piastri is the third favourite at 575, and that is value, man.
Yeah, okay.
Because
you heard it here.
Yeah,
Get
you
on
heard it here. Yes,
Get it on it.
Yes, so I am going to do a bit of an F1 bet in my bet, so we'll go to that later. But even the third and fourth favourite, Leclerc in the Ferrari, and then Hamilton in the Mercedes are paying 11 and 15 respectively. So there is some value in that market at the moment.
So it's opened up.
It has, and especially when you consider that if Lando crashes or his car fails, that's out of his. There's not much he can do about that. But it's good for the punters. So F1's a good spot to bet when there's no footy.
That's crazy. I mean, It's good to see it shaken up a little bit, isn't it?
It's really
It's a
good.
Verstappen special, pretty much everybody time it was on. So
Pretty much.
good to see it change up a little bit, changing the guard.
And it makes it interesting to watch as well. Mate, NFL starts on September 6th, so that's about a week from now. Are you much of an NFL boy? Because I think this is a spot where we can find some value in bets. I have been taking a little bit more notice in the last few years, but I got to scrub up big time yet.
Yeah, I'm probably in the same journey as you there, big
Yep.
fella. I've had about 4 mates put their hands up for this.
Oh, hello.
So, mate, we're going through a bit of a recruitment phase, I'd say, in the NFL space.
I love it.
4 blokes, we'll get them in for a bit of an audition.
Yep.
And I reckon we find maybe they can have a crack at providing some tips week 1, and we pick the best of them.
Love it.
So anyone out there who loves their NFL, we're always keen for some mail. But yeah, there are a few blokes willing to jump on the pod there and steer us in the right direction until we get up to speed, mate.
Love it. So we'll do it a little bit like Tone's hot EPL tip, where we get their tips every week and
I think so.
incorporated into the pod.
Yeah, we might do a few outbound calls to some of these guys and get
Love
them on live as well. So
Love it.
best to start with the experts, I guess, and until we start to build some familiarity with the rhythm of it all, I think it's good to rely on the experts, buddy.
Beautiful. It feels a little bit different this week, doesn't it, with no footy? But let's get into our bets now. So,
Yep.
mate, I'll get started if you want.
Love you too. Well, you beat me last week, so hopefully you can. Hopefully it'll be a bit more even this week.
By
We'll
a
see.
solid $20. All right. So, do you know what? Without footy, I found it a little bit harder. So I'm going to get a little bit creative this week. First up, you would have seen that Oasis are making a comeback after a
have.
long time,
That's
15
big
years or
news.
whatever.
Yeah, that's huge news, mate.
That's huge. And Liam and Noel Gallagher, both huge Manchester City fans.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought, you know what? I'm going to take Man City in the EPL to beat West Ham at $1.40. So we're going to take $30 on that.
Lovely.
Also, Oscar Piastri in the F1s for McLaren to place at $1.70.
Mm-hmm.
We'll put another 30 on that. I've got Tone's hot EPL tip, which is Aston Villa head-to-head to win there. Werder Bremen and Borussia Dortmund, 2.5 goals plus. I don't need. It sounds German. I don't actually know what league that in.
yeah.
He gets around on these bets. Lazio and AC Milan both to score.
Is it a geography lesson? Or is it
Feels that way, doesn't it? Aberdeen head-to-head, Celtic head-to-head, and that pays, as he says, a 10 to 14, 22.
Yeah, that's juicy.
It's juicy. And I'm going to take another $20 on the rugby bet, which you'll explain in a sec as well, mates.
Yeah, so you've got a bit of rugby, a bit of soccer, a bit of F1s, and then a big soccer multi.
Yes, correct.
Lovely. EPL.
Just mixing it up.
EPL's very, very popular for punters, so we'll definitely keep continuing with those, I think.
Love it.
It's one of those things where, I guess, as the season progresses, we build a bit more confidence in it too.
Yeah, exactly right.
It's like trying to bet in the first few rounds of the AFL season. It's always hard to get a sense of it, so
Exactly.
looking forward to following that. $14 too.
It's nice, isn't it? And given Tone got one of his multis last week, even if you get one or two, you're probably in the black. So we'll see.
Yeah. We might have to put that one up on the old Punt Power socials there, that EPL
yes.
multi, just so everyone can follow at home.
Love it. All right, mate, what are you betting on this week?
Mate, loving the rugby bet. So Tab Touch special at the moment, either New Zealand, who take on South Africa, or Australia, who versus Argentina to win, is $3 price lock.
Yep, love it.
$20 on, so another little kitty builder.
Was $2. I believe they're calling it
Yeah.
the Battlers bet.
Yeah, okay. The underdog bet.
I love it.
I mean, it just feels weird for New Zealand and Australia. They've been so prominent in rugby for such a long time. So we didn't see them as the
Yeah.
outsiders. So, yeah, no, I liked
I
it.
thought that was strange.
It was a good little concept, mate.
Love it.
And then, yeah, mate, I'm a big racing man.
You love it. You are the racing man.
Here's a time where sort of my entire year sort of comes alive.
Hello. Good
So
things to come, not
the
to
old-
talk it up.
Yeah, I hope so, mate. So my old stomping ground, I was at Caulfield for many, many years there as an employee, but Memsey Stakes Day, there's one I really like early.
Yep.
And I love a bet early in the day to build a balance, mate.
Oh, yeah.
And we can all tip out the Group 1s and race 8 and 9 later in the day, but we want to build a balance to have a punt on the big race.
Love this.
So Sassy Boom, race 1, Caulfield, Blake Shin's on board, won a Group 2 at the Track and Trip, which I like.
Yep.
Track and Trip's really important for me when I look to form.
Yep.
Which is good enough form for this race.
Yep. Beautiful. So when you say the Track and Trip, you mean literally at Caulfield?
At Caulfield,
and that same distance.
over the same distance,
Yep.
exactly, mate. Yeah,
Cool.
good call out for the punters at home. So it's 10 each. I'm home 10 each way on it. It's a $6 and $2. So places you get your money back, but I think $6 is the price I couldn't turn up. And
Beautiful.
I'm already seeing a firming this morning. So if you are listening to the potty, get on before it jumps on the day.
Beautiful.
Might jump at about $4.
Oh, I'm on it. I'm on it. Good work.
And then, mate, I've got to have a bit of skin in the game in the Memsy.
Yes.
The Group 1, the first real big Group 1 of the spring. I talked about the field before, but one battle I'm very much looking forward to is Pride of Jenny versus Mr. Brightside.
It's going to be huge, isn't it?
Yeah, the Mare and Jenny taking on the Gelding in Brightside. It's going to be an epic battle, and I have to just be around. I have to get involved.
Yeah.
So
Love this.
hopefully Sassy Boom gets up early. I've got a bit to play with here at Caulfield in the main race. Just a little bit of a tip for punters at home. Brightside has a better form line fresh than Jenny.
Interesting.
7 starts for 3 wins for Brightside. Jenny's never won first up.
Do you know what? That doesn't surprise me because Jenny just came through last year where Brightside has been consistent for a long time.
Which is why I'm going with him.
Yep.
Brightside loves Caulfield. He's 5 from 7 at the track, and I'm having probably the biggest bet of my 100
Hello.
this season of this podcast. I'm having $40 on the nose on Brightside at 270.
Yep.
And I expect Jenny will lead the race early, as she likes to do. She'll be 12 in front, and I think first up, she might just find she needs another run under her belt to be that leader on the line by a big margin. So I think Mr. Brightside will chase it down late, and it's going to be an epic battle. Can't wait, mate.
I love this.
The Brightside in the main race, in the Memsy race 8, Sassy Boom race 1, and taking the rugby special. They're me 3.
Boom. And there it is. There your winners this week. And that wraps up the potty, mate. Thanks for getting amongst it once again. Punt Pals podcast, of course, we're available on Spotify, iHeartRadio, and Apple Podcasts. We've knocked off another week.
We have, mate. We have. We've deliberately left the roast and the heroes to next week.
Yes. Yes.
We're building after week 1 of the finals. We just want to see, how things are going to play out. So stay tuned for that next week, and hopefully we can get a few of these Group 1 racing bets up, mate.
100%. Well, you're the man for this, so I'm in Nick we trust in this regard.
And if not, it'll be over to Liam or over to Jacob.
And on that as well, if anyone does want to get their bets in that we can feature, of course, we've got Liam, Jacob, and the Tone. You can hit us up on the socials, TikTok and Instagram, which is Punt Pals Pod, and of course the Gmail, puntpalspodcast@gmail.com. Easy as that,
Come on,
mate.
guys, give us a follow. Give us some love.
Yes, please do. And on that note, mate, let's hit play on that song and get out of here.
You beauty. Cheers, buddy. Have a good day.
Gentlemen, the game begins. Betting on sports with our expert experience. From football